welcome to my YouTube channel, Camera Crash Course. I am now at a fair / carnival. I'm going to be doing some long exposures of some of the moving rides. So a Ferris wheel, another wheel called the Cliffhanger. I'm going to get my camera set up, do some long exposures, remove the people, and get the light trails. This is going to be cool. Let's do this. So camera settings for this photograph are f4, ISO 100, and on the timer setting. So all I have to do is push that remote, push the button here. The camera will then trigger, and as this thing goes down for around 2.5 minutes, I'll have the photograph on the exposure going, and then afterwards, when the exposure is correct, I'll push the button and the photo will process and it'll get the final product. So as I'm waiting for them to reload, I'm just going to go over timer settings. So again, f4, ISO 100, bulb release, 10 stop indie filter, and this should be the golden setup. I don't see how we could go wrong here. All right. I'll see you guys in a little bit. So with my 10 stop indie filter on, I'm looking at a shutter speed of 2 minutes. So without the indie filter, it's about 1/8 of a second, and with it, we're looking at a 2.5 minute shutter speed. So over the course of 2 minutes, I'm gonna wait for the ride to start spinning. I will start the camera, and we'll get that movement. It'll look cool. It kind of gives it the I'm moving on 100 miles per hour look as a still photograph. So it's pretty cool. Right now, I'm just waiting for that moment so I can click the trigger and it goes. So yeah, I'm just basically waiting. I'll start the camera up when I'll go. See you then. All right, guys, the ride is now going, and I am currently having my camera setting going. Again, this is going to be around a 2.5 minute process. The ride goes for around 45 seconds and then stops. So I don't know anything after that, but once we get to the 2 minute mark, I'm gonna turn the camera off and then you guys can see it. So now comes the fun part, waiting. So the shot of the Ferris wheel was successful. It came out really cool. I'm now moving to another ride called the Cliffhanger. It kind of tilts at an angle, so I'm guessing it's going to create more of a, I'm going to call it the black hole effect. It's pretty interesting, but yeah. So it's behind the camera, right over there. It tilts up at a 45-degree angle and spins people around. So it's gonna look cool in long exposure. Let's get over there. Guys, I found my next composition. It's pretty much this right here. So the shutter speed is now up to a whopping 5 minutes with the 10 stop indie filter. So it's a lot longer than before. Yes.
Like, can I say hi?
Sure.
Hi, what's up? The carnival is pretty cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. Nice seeing ya.
Too.
I hope you succeed in YouTube.
Thank you. Anyways, nice people here. Anyways, so 5 minute long exposure, ISO 100, f3.5. Pretty simple. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm waiting for it to fill up. Here we go. This camera's rolling. As you can see, I am waiting for the 4.5 minute timer to start, and the ride is now going behind me, so I am excited to see how this turns out. I had to move up because my previous location was back there, but because there was so many traffic of people just walking down this aisle back here, even on a long exposure, people still show up there because they're just standing in front of the camera. So this is a better location, and yeah, here's the time lapse. So the ride is now finished, and I still have 1.5 minutes left on the exposure. So I'm not sure if it's going to turn out good or not, but we'll find out. So I'll see you later. Finished all my photographing here. It's getting really late. It's about to shut down. I walked away with I think 2 photos that I'm happy with. I'm now going to take them into post-processing, and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do with them. So we'll now move to that step of photographing. See you there. So last night I was able to go out and photograph the carnival and get some long exposure rides of the Ferris wheel, some long exposure shots of the Ferris wheel and the ride called the Cliffhanger. Those came out pretty good. I'm happy with how they turned out. I'm now going to jump into my computer. I'm going to show you my post-processing techniques and how I'm going to edit them. I'm going to show you how to do it. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So I'm going to open up Lightroom here. Now I already have all my photos imported. These are the photos I took last night. I took 14 last night. So here's the first photo I took of the Ferris wheel. The second one, the one I'll be showing you how to edit, and then some example photos. I was trying to get the camera settings correct so we could photograph the Cliffhanger right here. And this is how they turned out. So everything's very bright, and that's just because I might have I left my exposure going a little bit longer than I should have. But hey, honest mistake. So I'm gonna jump into the develop tab here. You can do that by pressing D or just click on it, your choice. And the first thing I'm gonna always do on a photograph like this, I'm going to go into the basics tab here. I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna drop the highlights. Okay, and I'm gonna open up the shadows. Now there's not a lot of shadows that need to be opened up on this photograph, so I think if you kind of close the shadows a little bit, right there, that looks good. So you can already see the before and after look pretty good. I think that this one's gonna be interesting. We're gonna close the shadows and kind of open up the highlights a little bit. So something like that. So it takes a lot of this stuff away from the sides, but I think that's kind of what I want to do here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the lens corrections here, and just like before, I'm going to enable profile corrections. Not a big difference, but it does kind of remove some of the blotting from this part of the photograph. I'm going to remove chromatic aberration. We'll see if this photograph has any. Not too much when it comes to chromatic aberration, but that's good. So you can see before and after, not a big deal, but it does make the photograph look better if you're going to be printing it out. I'm going to go to the hue and saturation slider here. On the purples and the pinks, you can play around with this. I want to add a little bit of a blue, so you see we're going to add a little bit of blue there, and on the purples we can add a little bit of a blue like that. So now you can see, toggling this on and off, it makes it look a little bit more whiter, and I think for this photograph that's going to look better. It's all personal opinion here. We can oversaturate the blues in this photograph. So yeah, play around with this. This is a really cool slider. I like using this one a lot. One of my favorite sliders here, because you can really change the color of the overall photograph. Now I'm going to do split toning. This is a big part of it. So the highlights of the photograph, we can keep, what's going on here? Okay, we can keep the highlights kind of up in this orange, maybe kind of yellowish thing. Maybe we'll push it over to the blue a little bit, like that. Okay, and now in the shadows, we're gonna open up the oranges a little bit, or we'll see. Kind of drag it to your own personal taste. So I think right there is gonna be good. So once again, before and after in this tab, looks pretty good. I think we'll have to drop the highlights a little bit more after looking at this. That looks a little bit better, and I think that's going to be pretty good for this photograph. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to the healing brush tool here, or the spot removal, and I'm just going to paint over this area here because I want it to be black. So it's going to paint it in black like the rest of it, because I didn't want that in the photograph. That's good. Okay, and now I'm going to paint this right here. That's going to put that black. So as you can see, we've pretty much removed quite a bit of the photograph, some of the nonsense in the bottom there. And there we go. So it looks pretty good. Take the radial filter. I'm just going to grab a radial filter. I'm going to put it across this circle here. Okay, get it to the size I want. Drag it over here. Clear the already selected features here. Drop the exposure down a little bit, I think, just to give it a little bit more detail in there, or up it, in fact, because I kind of want to show what it is without like showing you what it is, because I want you to look at this photo, I want you to know what it is instead of having to look at that title. Maybe increase the clarity a little bit. Yeah, so that's pretty good. We'll duplicate this. Yep, and we'll duplicate it one more time, and we'll take this duplication and we'll put it right here. But now we're going to actually decrease some of the exposure a little bit here. So watch this. Decrease the exposure here. We'll duplicate it. We'll decrease some of the exposure here. We'll duplicate it. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm doing something called dodge and burning. This is a big part of my photography style. I really like just to bring light, complex light in different parts of the photograph. So you can see if I toggle this on and off, before and after, the photograph has much more dynamic to it and looks much more better, or looks way more professional in my opinion. So we'll just grab a new one of these, deselect the clarity, Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of a different color here. So we'll add a little bit of a, like a very, let me see, like we'll add a little bit of a pink to it. A lot of pink to it. Yeah. Up the saturation. Not sure if that's doing much to it. Yeah, actually, I think that's pretty good. I think the photograph what we have right now is at a pretty good point. It looks pretty good. You can see it before and after. It just looks way much better. Yeah, so maybe the split toning, we went a little bit too much in the split toning, so we can always back that off with the saturation slider here. That's good, I think. Maybe add a little bit more of a warm to it. Yeah, I think that's good right there. So that was the Ferris wheel photograph we took there. That was like my quick 5-minute editing process on that one. Now the next one, which I'm going to be doing, is I'm going to be doing this one here. So this is the Cliffhanger. You can see the name right here. Cliffhanger. Why not? We'll develop this. Now this one, I know I'm going to do black and white already, so I'm just going to turn it into the black and white slide already. Just right off the bat, so I don't have to do any color adjustments to it. We'll just do black and white. So what I'm seeing right here is this fence was straight. So I'm just going to draw a line from here to here, and that's going to straighten out the fence. The crop on this photograph is pretty good already, I think. And yeah, so I'm going to now come into the basic. I'm going to drop the highlights a little bit. So you can see we have a lot of detail coming through the back side of that. I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit so we can get detail in the tree. And the white, I think we're at a pretty decent point at the white. Too much, it becomes too white. We'll just see. We'll do the typical hold Alt, drag it to the right until you see white. Boom. Okay. And black, draw on the blacks until it touches like that. So drop the blacks 100%. So the photograph already is looking pretty dramatic. I want to highlight this sign right here. So I'm just going to up the clarity real quick, like that. I'm going to highlight this sign right here that says Cliffhanger. So we'll just put a radial filter on this, up the exposure a little bit. Maybe down the exposure a little bit. Yeah, that's right. And then up the clarity a little bit. Add a touch of dehazing to it, and drop the highlights a bit and open up the shadows. So now the before and after in the sign, you can see it's more legible. Now we're just going to add one more of these things to it and do a couple dodge and burning techniques. This photograph is really easy to edit because there's not a lot going on in here. So just take this down here, add a drop of exposure to it, and we'll just duplicate that a little bit throughout the photo. Now this tree back here, I want to open up the exposure a little bit on it. So I want you to be able to see that this is a tree. So go like that. I'll take another one right here, put it over the tree, like so. And you can see this is a tree, and you kind of get drawn into the scene a little bit more, in my opinion. There we go. I think that's good. You can see we'll just toggle before and after, and it's a really big difference. Now we're going to come to split toning, and like before, we'll just add some color because you can add color with the split toning on a black and white photograph, like so. It's very simple. So I think blue is the iconic color. The ride was green, but I think blue looks a little bit better for this stuff. And we'll just add a little bit more blue. Why not? Add blue and drop the saturation. So you can see big difference between the before and after. In this photograph over here, you can't even see through this because it's just so white, and you can see what's going on behind it in this photograph. Here, as you can see, I kind of went for the blue theme on these photographs for no particular reason. So yeah, you have this photograph here and the one in the Ferris wheel. So these are the two photographs that I walked away with last night that I was really happy with. So yeah. Alright guys, just want to say a big thank you to watching my YouTube video. If you like the content which I'm producing, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out. If you like this video, please like it. Follow my Instagram. It's linked in the description. Yeah, so here are the two photos. Hope you guys like them. Until next time, see you then.